hosting underage drinking in your home is against the law. You can't do it. There's only 2 circumstances where underage drinking is allowed, and it's very limited. One is you can't allow drinking of your kids at home if you're a legal guardian or a parent. That is allowed. No friends, but if you're a child, you can't allow that in your own home. The other exception is in religious services. Those are the only 2 limited exceptions. Now, what happens if that kid gets drunk and you allow your kid to drink in your own home and that kid gets drunk? Do you think that's legal? You're going to have DCFS issues if you're going to allow your kid to get intoxicated. So very limited exceptions where underage drinking is allowed. So just remember that. Providing alcohol to minors is wrong and it's illegal. So just remember that. And I want to ask a couple questions here because when I do, I go speak to teens too throughout, all the way from middle school up to colleges talking about underage drinking. And I always ask this question, and it's really interesting to hear, especially for high school kids. I want to hear what some of you have to say the answer to this is. What do you think the percentages of teens who drink alcohol? Throw out some numbers. Anybody? 60%? 70? 82? 82 seems to be a popular number for some reason. I hear 82 a lot. I don't know why. Those are pretty much the responses I get from teenagers in high schools. They say 60, 70, 80%, all the way up to 90%. If I would have answered that question when I was in high school, I would have said 70%. Lisa will share some of this information with you. It really depends on the school. But overall, the majority of teenagers do not drink alcohol. They don't. It's gone down. I mean, it hasn't gone down enough, but absolutely. I mean, if you talk about our generation compared to today, it has gone down some. Not nearly enough, though. Alcohol is still what I call the real gateway drug. Alcohol is still the gateway drug. You have to remember that. So providing alcohol to minors, basically you're providing that alcohol. You're providing that gateway drug to the kids. Permissive parents. All these studies, when we were growing up, I got to tell you, I had great parents. We were talking earlier. I mean, I'm half Greek, half Lithuanian, so I could only be from Chicago. My parents were great. They were fantastic parents. But you know what? When I graduated from high school, my parents told me after I graduated from high school, would you like to have a party? Would you like us to get a keg for you? That was very common, very common. My parents were great, but you know what? They didn't have these studies we were talking about 4 times more likely to be an alcoholic later in life if you start drinking before your brain stops growing. They didn't have the studies, your developing body. All these different studies out there were not there. So my parents were making what they thought was a responsible choice. They figured, you know what? Everyone else is going to be having a keg party. Maybe he should have one too. It's not going to do any harm, right? And I always hear this thing too, the forbidden fruit thing, where it's like, you know what? They're going to be more likely to go crazy if you don't allow them to at least try alcohol and have alcohol while they're young. That's a bunch of hooey too. Come on. I've got, here's, again, the statistics. They always talk about, having a glass of wine with dinner, like the Southern Europeans, Italy, France, having a glass of wine with dinner. Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. There's no question we have a binge drinking problem with teens in our society here in the United States. But you know what? It's much worse in Italy, and it's much worse in France. It's 34% of kids in Italy binge drink, 28% in France. Our rate is an unacceptable 22%. But over there in Italy and France, where the drinking age is 16, they have a much worse binge drinking problem. The laws on kids and the laws on parents and adults, they're very harsh. And they're getting harsher. Why? Because we want to protect our kids, because these studies show that we're hurting kids. So there's social host laws. Right now, if you're a parent and you allow underage drinking in your home, again, you're going to allow your kid to do it. You know what? That's actually legal. But guess what? If their friends come over, minimum $500 fine. Minimum $500 fine. Now, if there was serious consequences that occurred from that, if someone got hurt seriously in a car, leaving that house, we're talking about a $25,000 fine, 2 to 3 years in jail, and you're going to be a felon for the rest of your life. I don't know if you heard about the case up in Deerfield a couple years ago. Someone was actually thrown in jail after kids died leaving their home. That was one of the things that actually we started a program called TRAIL, Tracking Alcohol in Illinois, and we were assisting them in their investigation to find out where they got the alcohol from. Well, it was very easy. Everyone knew where they got the alcohol from. They allowed drinking in their home. Social host laws are much, much harder today than they were previously because why? Why are laws passed? People die. When people die, they pass laws to stop that from happening again. That's a great thing for legislators to do. Someone dies, they pass a law. So these laws just keep getting harsher and harsher, and they're getting harsher on the adults. More harsh on the adults, basically, than they are on the kids, which really, I mean, should be the way. They're the adults, right? HGH, human growth hormone, right? Really bad, right? Well, actually, human growth hormone is a naturally occurring product of your body. That's what HGH is. What these athletes are taking is not the naturally occurring product. What does alcohol do? Alcohol affects, it affects your brain, it affects your body. It affects that human growth hormone from working the way it's supposed to. It decreases the amount of human growth hormone in the body, that naturally occurring substance in your body. That's what alcohol does. It decreases that. So it hurts athletic performance too for kids. I think there's two groups really that I think we could change behavior of. And that is parents, because if parents were made more aware of the consequences of underage drinking, for example, hurting their performance, their memory as far as studying, they're going to be less likely, if something's going to be hurting their kids, they're going to be less likely to give that substance to their kids, right? So that's one of the groups that I think all of us in this room can do a good job of, is educating parents. How do you educate parents? Who would parents listen to? We were talking earlier today, it's really difficult to get parents out to these meetings, right? But if their kid was part of the presentation here today, they would probably attend, right? So what we're doing is, with this campaign that Gordy helped me with, that we did in Cicero, is kids are going out and they're posting these educational materials themselves to educate the adults. And we've got bottleneckers, we've got signage, we've got window decals, and basically it's a positive campaign, because like I said, the majority of teens don't drink. The vast majority of retailers, obviously, and the vast majority of parents and adults do not think it's okay to give alcohol to minors. So we're doing the positive campaign. We're trying to promote that positive message. That's what this is about. When Gordy first did this, we did this thing called Sticker Shock, and it was basically, and you saw them real quickly, these yellow, very, very harsh stickers with a big warning on there saying, bad, bad, bad. It was a negative campaign. We're doing a positive campaign. We're switching it to a positive campaign to promote the social norm in the community, and the social norm in the community is not giving alcohol to minors. How will kids respond to this? How will kids get that message? Well, if they're doing this campaign, if they're actually the ones that are doing the campaign, they're going to take ownership of this. They're going to be more likely not to drink then, because they've got ownership of this campaign. They're doing this, they're going to be proud of what they're doing, and they're going to be less likely to take that drink. So not only I think the message is more important that the parents and the adults are hearing it from the kids, but they're also going to take ownership of the program. Key message too to tell your retailers is, you guys are going to help us educate. We're not targeting the retailers, the liquor stores. We're asking for you to help us educate your patrons on why they should not provide alcohol to minors. That's the message you have to tell the retailers. It's really critical that we get this message out there, and it's really critical that we involve the teens, and it's really critical that we get this message to parents. Those are the ones who we could change the behavior of.